So we're good to go. All right, awesome. And we are, reminder that workbook is really, really helpful. So if you haven't opened it yet, make sure you have that off to the side. That will provide you with all of those links and helpful tips as we go through today's session. If you are new to CodeHS and you need a teacher account, you can go right over to codehs.com/sign up. And I know we are, at this beginning, we're inundating you with links. That workbook should have most of these links right there. So that's a really good spot to go. We also are throwing those links into the chat, but I know that there's a lot going on there. So if you need a new account, you can sign up this way. You're going to enter in some information about your school so that we can get you verified. You may already have a CodeHS account, and if so, you can just log in there. We're going to use that account as we go through our workshop. And if you are not sure, you don't have an account yet, but you just want to sit back and watch, that is totally fine. You can, watch this recording, and then you always have that opportunity to sign up for an account once we are done today. All right, and the last note that we have before we get started is that we are going to be using a demo section today. So you are going to join this section as a student. So if you have used CodeHS before, you know that you to have students join your class, you provide them with this link, and you will, it looks like if there's an issue with the attendance link, I will take a look at that in just a second. I will fix that up. So don't worry if you're noticing that. All right, so this demo section, you're going to go to this link, and it will ask you for a code. The code is the last 5 digits of that URL, so 7708B. That is going to be the code you're going to enter in to that chat, that link, that URL, so that you can join our demo section today. And this will provide you with some of the information and content in these courses so that you can take a look and work through it in the student view as we go through our material. All right, let's take a look at what this 2-hour session is going to look like today. So we did a quick intro, setting up our account, enrolling in our demo section. And if you missed that, if you are a little behind, that is totally fine. That workbook has all of that information. There is also the link to the demo section on the top of the question parking lot document as well. So you can find that link a bunch of different ways. And we're not going to need that for a little bit. So you'll have a chance to get into that demo section before we get started there. We are going to have Jennifer give us an overview of these courses, our artificial intelligence and our data science courses. She's going to let us know how they're broken up, what content is included, all of that good stuff. And then she's going to dive into a full data science lesson. So going through a lesson where you are in the seat of the students, and she will be showing you some tips and tricks of how you can use CodeHS to provide this content to your students. Then we'll debrief that so you can see a little bit behind the lens, see why she made those choices, and how the resources on CodeHS allowed her to teach that lesson. And then we'll take another look at some more data science and maybe some AI information as well. And we'll take a break at some point in there, and then we'll come back and we'll do some overview of general teacher tools and resources that are available to you on CodeHS. All right, and just a reminder, you can ask a question at any point in this session, so don't wait until the end. You don't need to hold it. If you even have a question right now, you can hop over to the question parking lot and type that in, and we can start making sure that you're getting those answers as soon as possible. Another reminder, this information, today's workshop is not a boot camp. So you're not going to leave knowing data science or AI. You're going to have to go through those courses, go through that content as a student, which you always can do on CodeHS once those are available. But the real thing that we want you to focus on today is how we are using the resources and tools on CodeHS to reach your students in the way that you want to. So make sure you're keeping that lens as we go through our lessons, because the content might be a little bit, it might be something you need to do a refresher on. So it's fine if the content is not totally clicking for you. The goal is for us to see what those teacher moves are. So here we go. We're gonna let Jennifer take it away.
Thank you so much. I saw some people just hop in at the very last minute or just a few minutes ago, and I want to make sure they have the workbook link. Can we throw that in there one more time? And if anyone missed anything or just came in, this is the workbook link. So right now we're up to step 3. So if you did just come in, just make sure that you take a look at the attendance link, take a look at the question parking lot, create an account. We did a lot in the first 10 minutes, 11 minutes. So if you didn't get to it, we're going to go to number 3 now. And number 3 or step 3 is it's called, I think it's Slido. I'm not even actually sure, but it's a cool tool that teachers can use. So check it out if you want to use it in your classes. But I really want to get a good look at the different levels of expertise in the room. So whether you're new to CodeHS but no data science, or maybe you're new to data science but no CodeHS. So we're going to do just a little bit of a poll first. If I can get to the right slide. So you can do it on your phone. So you can scan that and do it on your phone, or the link is right there in the workbook as well. And I've got the first question up there. So the first question is just a simple one. Have you used CodeHS before? And I think I can get to it from here so that we can see what everyone writes. I'm going to have to pick one. So obviously, yes, I have. Okay, cool. I'll give it a few more minutes or a few more seconds to get everyone to, a chance to enter their information. This is great. This is actually really good. So it looks like at least half of us have taught a class using CodeHS, and maybe data science is, something you want to try next. And then others have, have an account and have explored a bit. If you have not used this to teach a class, so if you are the half that is kind of new to CodeHS, just keep an eye on the different navigational things that I'm going to show you, because that's going to be something that you're going to want to learn yourself. And then also, kind of remind or remember where you didn't know where to go, because that's going to be probably where your students will need, some guidance and where to navigate as well. All right, let's go to the next question. So I've got another question, and I'm going to launch it now. And there it is. What is your coding experience? So have you never coded before? Do you know how to code in one programming language? Do you know how to code in multiple programming languages? Or what in the world is code? Excuse me. I don't want to skew results, but I'm going to just pick this one. All right, this is like the advanced class today. This is awesome. And if you're not in that 72%, just know that we are going to talk you through everything. In fact, I don't have any part of today where you actually have to write your own code, but rather you just have to change things and kind of see how it affects the output. So if you are new to code, which your students may be, and I'll go into when they should know and when they don't need to know code. If you're new to it, you'll still be able to get something out of this for sure. What we're using in these two courses is Python. So that's also, if maybe you know how to code in some language but not Python, that's what we're using today. All right, and lastly, just throwing code aside, maybe you've taught a data science that was more statistical or something like that than actually using programming. So what is your data science expertise? This would be the last little gauging tool that I use. It says cybersecurity, doesn't it? Obviously, that's supposed to.
Can you repeat the question? Repeat the question. Data science.
Yes. It's what is your data science experience? And in the choices, it says cybersecurity. I just forgot to update it. So obviously, that's supposed to say data science. So have you taught a full data science class? Do you know a little bit about data science, or do you not know much? I'll pick the middle one just so we can see our answers. Okay, cool. So this is basically split down the middle, which makes sense because it's kind of a new entity, right? Like data science. I mean, I got to say, when I was building this course, there wasn't many. There's some college data science courses, not many high school at all that's available. It's kind of like a new growing thing. And we will take a look at AI as well. The reason I'm kind of going towards data science more is that's the beginning level. AI is like kind of past that. Okay, cool. Let me come back to the slides. Thank you so much for filling that out. That helps me a lot with knowing what speed to take this at and all of that. I want to start with the course overview of these two courses. So they are two separate courses. Each one is only a semester long. So data science is just a semester, and then AI is just a semester. They can be paired up to create a full course for sure. So the data science course, let me move some things because the videos are in the way. There we go. Like I said before, students are using Python. They're also going to use some Python libraries. So they're going to use Pandas, which is what shows like the tables, you know, in the output. And then the matplotlib is what they can use to actually show some graphs. And everything, and I think this is a huge deal, everything is available through CodeHS. And all you need is a browser. You don't have to download Python. You don't have to download, I don't know if anyone's used Jupyter before, where you kind of have to download, but it's still very confusing. You don't have to do any of that. Everything is in our web-based platform, and it's right there in the browser. So this is really good for students, you know, who, you know, or computers where maybe you're changing computers over time and you don't want it in the actual computer, you want it in the browser. If students are on Chromebooks, they can still do this without having to download anything. And then in both of these courses, we also have filled it with conceptual topics. So nothing to do with programming or code, just all the other stuff that's super important as well, such as ethics and learning about bias and stuff. So these are the 4 modules in data science, and I'll go through what's just briefly in each one, because I know you'll want to go and explore anyway. In the first one, the first data science lifecycle module, we teach students about what qualifies as a statistical question, what types of data there are, like qualitative, quantitative, and then we get into the programming. So we do teach them a little bit about Python. You'll see later that a lot of this course is built with templates, basically. So if students are brand new to programming, they are going to get their hands full of it and have a review for sure. But they're not going to have to, they're typically not going to have to code from scratch. There will be an example that they can reference and use some of that, or there'll be an outline and all they have to do is change a few things. So we do have some differentiation abilities, because you can take all that, you know, scaffolding out as well and just have them code from scratch. So we do have, it's very accessible otherwise if students have not had much programming experience. We go through central tendency and spread, which that's the one we're going to look at later, and then kind of just go further into pandas and what the pandas library can do for us. This is a demo, but we will get into this. Students also have the ability, they can copy and paste data, or they can upload a file, which is very helpful. So they can upload a file like a CSV file, and then import that right into the browser basically, and it will be able to print it in the output. So I'll show you what the print looks. Here's another example where you'll see on the left, if you're new to CodeHS, which it looks like a lot of us are not, which is wonderful. But if you're new to CodeHS, take a look at this. On the left is where you type the code. On the right is where the code prints. So that's the output. So students would write the code on the left, or that code would just be there and they'd have to change a few things. And then they'd hit the green run button and it would show up nice in a, it's called a data frame in Pandas. It's going to show up nice in a table on the right. We can also plot data. So again, students type on the left, and then when they hit run, a nice, gorgeous little graph will pop up. We're going to take a look at this one later too. After that, we kind of go through, once they learn about the data science lifecycle, we basically cycle through the cycle a bunch of times. So the first time they're going to do the data science lifecycle, it's all project-based, but this one's going to focus more on using data science for change. So like social equity type stuff. And they're learning more topics as they're doing this. So they're also learning about big data. They're also learning about bias, and then some more techniques like filtering data, data cleaning, and then visualizations. And after that, we go through it again with data science for business. So this would be more like customer data or social media data, anything that's tied to an industry. And then of course, they'll, the skills just keep advancing in this part. So they're gonna learn how to aggregate and merge, like joins, and then get into more data cleaning. And then of course, we always hit bias, like every time we bring it back. So it's not just say, this is bias and forget about it after this. We bring it back all the time. So all that ethics and bias, it just comes back just to make sure that we're using the data the right way. And then lastly, they'll get into more of the data storytelling. I feel like this would be really good for students who are less into the code and more into the presentation. So this is going over how to effectively present the data so that it actually promotes change or does something for a business, telling the story of the data. After that, now this is a difference between data science and the AI course. Data science is accessible, even though it might look intimidating. You have to know you have to know your students. It might look intimidating because of all the code, but it is accessible for students who have never used code before. Artificial intelligence, the AI course, this is definitely a level 2 course. So the first module of this, I think anyone can do because it's a non-programming module. But after that, you will need to know Python. So that is the big difference between these two. The Python skills and artificial intelligence, you would need an intro to Python course before it, which is why we're not going over some of this in detail today, just because I don't know if everyone's at that level. But the first, or an overview of this, is basically, it's very similar to data science, where they explore and program some AI techniques, but then they also learn about all the concepts that, and ethics behind it.
Jennifer,
So
can I just ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely, please.
I'm new to like CS, but I'm a math teacher. I was thinking about teaching JavaScript for, I guess, the fall semester, but what would be the difference between a Python and JavaScript?
There is, it's just the syntax. So if your students know JavaScript, you might want, I think you can absolutely do either one of these courses for sure. You might want to just do some sort of like JavaScript to Python boot camp type thing. So a cool thing with CodeHS is that you can take modules from other courses. So I would, if I was a teacher in your position, I would pull in a Python module before even getting to like the harder stuff in the AI course. It might be beneficial to even do it before data science, but I think they'd be okay without doing that for the data science course. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How much Python would the kids be able to, like, do they need to know in order to do AI?
They need, if they know JavaScript, and it all depends, because there are data structures, which I know is definitely in the AI course. So data structures is more of it like an advanced thing. And data structures kind of differ between JavaScript and Python. So, I mean, they definitely need that kind of language, or that kind of advanced topics. Does that make sense? So
yeah, so what you're telling me, okay, so more, if in order to do data structure, I guess the Python would be a favorable language to learn, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Well, I mean, it depends on what you're doing with it. For our artificial intelligence course, we decided to go with Python just because of the libraries that are available.
I see. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Objects. I see a question about objects. You know what? I don't think I remember objects at all in this course. I put together the data science course. Someone else actually did the artificial intelligence, but I reviewed it. I don't remember objects. I don't think they have objects in there. This first module, however, is accessible to anyone. It is a non-programming module, and it's all about like the basics of AI, the ethics, and all the different types of AI. So this is absolutely, you can throw this on anywhere you'd like. There's no programming in it at all, but it's still very interactive. Then it does get a little bit more difficult. I'll have you explain some, I'll have you explore some of these later. But you can see even just in the demo on the right, students are building a tic-tac-toe. So if they don't know how to, loop through and print what you see, popping up, it's not going to be, this is definitely a level 2. Another thing is that they build a, what is this? Connect 4 game. I forgot the name of it. So same thing. It looks like they're using user input. There's a lot of Python skills in this one. They have chatbots. So chatbots might be actually on the easier side, I think. So this would be more like if else statements. And if you're new to code, please don't, this is, like I said, this is a level 2 course, this AI one. But AI and chatbots might actually be an easier one before you get into like some of the libraries. And then of course, this one's the hardest, creating predictive models. This is where you actually create a model, you train it using a library, and then you use it to make predictions. It's a really cool course. And there are some options. And after this, I'll pause. I know I'm talking a lot. I want to make sure I get all the questions if there are any. But there are some options with both of these. So for data science, you can absolutely just use the first module, and it's going to cover all the basics and still loop through that life cycle. So if you only have 2 to 3 weeks or a month, you can throw in the first project. If you have the whole semester, then you can fit in the whole course. We have the same type of options with the AI course. So again, if you only have 2 to 3 weeks, you can do just that first module. If you want to add on a project, either the gaming or the chatbot, you can, have a month for that. And then if you have a whole semester, you can fit in all of it. So a full semester, it would be, just like 90 hours, I guess, on the regular. I'm trying to think of what schools usually go with, but it's going to fit in your one semester. And we do also, these pair together pretty well because they're both in Python. The only thing is, data science is definitely lesser Python, and the intro to AI is absolutely a second level course. So I wouldn't suggest, like, data science is not all you need to get into AI. If your students have taken a programming course or, a Python course, then you can definitely use this for the whole year. Do data science, then intro to AI. All right, any questions with that or the course options? And feel free to use your mic or just type in the chat. I'm not in the parking lot right now, but I can get in there later and answer some questions. All right, cool. So we are going to get our hands into this course then. What we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to kind of have your student hat on and your teacher hat on. So I'm going to kind of do the same. I'm going to have my teacher hat on, but then also my PD hat on. So there might be times where I act as kind of like a teacher, and you guys are the students. And then there's other times where I will definitely, change my focus and talk about techniques. So we're going to take a look at one of the lessons from data science. And basically, as you're going through it, think of what your students might feel. Does the code intimidate you? Do you want to explore more? Does it, do you want to see what else you can do? And think of what kind of scaffolding you might need or what kind of enrichment you might need as well. All right, I want to make sure we're all in the right place though, because now we're going to go to the lesson. Well, I guess not quite yet. Yeah, before we get to the lesson, before I confuse you, let's go through a few open questions, and then I'll show you at the end where I got these from. All right, so in the chat, what is the median of the data set shown here? This would be almost like a pretest. I would use this to kind of gauge what my students know from previous courses. So I'm doing the same exact thing with you guys. What is the median? Answer in the chat. Good, Davina. Good, Josh. Yes, it's 9, right? It's the middle number. And I don't know if you're like me, but I have to literally cover the outside pieces and count in. Perfect. All right, how about the mode? What's the mode? $15, excellent. Mode is the one that appears the most, and there can be more than one. I'm going to skip that one. And let's use our reactions. So the statement is a true or false. There is no outlier in this data set. Choose yes if you think that's true. Choose no if you think that's false. And where are my participants? I can't see what you guys are doing. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I was confusing people yesterday with this too, because it's like a double negative. So I think I would have to change this because there is no outlier in this data set is false because there is an outlier in the data set. So I definitely, this is kind of a confusing way of asking this. But yes, there is a outlier in this data set, and you might need more context to actually make that distinction. But if I were to tell you that there's definitely an outlier, what would it be? And a lot of you have put it in there already. Yep, very good, 67. All right, so now we're going to go into the course. I want to make sure you're in the right spot. So if you've signed up for the course, let me go back to our workbook. I'm going to show you how to get there. A lot of us have used CodeHS before, so that's super helpful. If you did not, if you came in late, you'll want to, if you guys could just throw the link to the workbook in there again, you'll want to sign up. You'll want to join the code. We kind of went through that already. What we're doing is we're getting to number 4 right now. If you already signed up for the course, a way to always find it is right up here in this where it says My Sections. So My Sections, and you can click the Data Science and AI PD Summer 2021. So I've got a bunch more than you probably, or maybe a bunch less if you guys have used CodeHS. But you'll want to choose that one and it will get you to the right spot. When you're there, I believe there's one more click where you actually click into the course, but then you should see a module with the sun on it. So what we're going to do is we'll get the sun module. We're going to click on that first lesson and click into the first video. So help me a little bit with that. If you're there, if you were able to get to, I'll show you this screen. All right, you click on that video button. If you're able to get to this screen, just give me a thumbs up. Awesome. Either an actual thumbs up or the virtual one. Cool. All right, and let us know in the chat if anyone's not having, or if anyone's having difficulty, because we'll help you in there. All right, so what we're going to do here, and a lot of you have used CodeHS before, so you know that we offer the video, and then we also offer an optional, an option to use the slides instead. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the slides. So click the slides button, and I'm going to go through a few with you just to show you what some of these slides look like. And I'm just stalling a little bit just to make sure we're all in the right spot. And what time is it? Okay, we're good. All right, so this is not, you can tell already, it's 1.5. So this is not the first lesson. Students will absolutely learn the basics of data science, what it is, all the careers. They're going to learn, there's a whole programming lesson before this where they learn to deal with like the Python programming that they'll need, like variables and lists. So if you are new to code, I know we had a few of those in there, do know that this is not the first time the students are going to see the code. So hopefully they won't get intimidated by seeing some of it. But we're going to use what we've learned or what they've learned to get into series, which is a Pandas thing, a Python thing, and then central tendency. All right, so a series is a one-dimensional labeled array. So what that is, it's basically a list that looks like a single column of a data table. If you do know some data science or Pandas, there's series, which is just one column, and then there's data frames, which is multiple. So what we do here is we start with the series. And we're going to give them the skeleton. We're going to give them the code, and they're going to just change some things. So to explain what code is given to them, right here, what we're doing is we're importing the Pandas library. So the Pandas library, which they learn about before this, they learn about libraries. This is basically just a whole collection of data science functions that you can use. And what we're doing is we are importing it, and we are abbreviating it as PD. So anytime we want to use this library, we're going to use the letters PD. And that's what's going on in the second line. So we're naming this series pies, that's the variable. And then we're going to call on the pandas library and create a series. This in the middle, this is the list that students have learned. They will have learned this already. And each item is separated by a comma. And then if it is a word, it's got to be in quotation marks. And then lastly, we use Python to print it so that it actually shows up when we hit the run button, so that it's part of the output. I'm going to bring this a little further just so you can see what else we can do with the pandas. So if we look at this, it's a list, but the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, you might wonder where that came from. That's going to be the default. So the default, and they're called indices. Each one is an index. The default is they're going to start listing things 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, what if we didn't want to use that, right? What if we wanted to be more specific? If we wanted to change that, we can absolutely do that by adding in a parameter. So a parameter, which is taught earlier, is something that you put in together with this function. So take a look here. What we did here is we added a comma, we added the word index equals, and then we made another list. So this time we specified what we wanted the index to be. And the reason I'm going over this too is I don't know if everyone, even if you have data science or coding experience, you may not have any experience with the Pandas library. So I want to make sure that we know at least a little bit so that when I tell you to replace something, you're not completely lost. I thought I pressed go. Okay. And then I have this slide in there too. You can base this, now I'm putting on my PD hat, you can base this on how students did in those bell ringers. So if they did not know what a mean, median, and mode were, you might want to spend some extra time on this. You guys were good. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep this in there as reference and we'll move on. All right, so here is another example. What we have here is the list of weights of cats at a shelter. And if you look at the, what shows in the output on the right, those indices really make it kind of confusing. It's too many numbers to look at. So this could be a really fun activity for you guys as well in your class. We're going to name these cats. So you can have students help name them. I've got some up here. We got a bunch of cats here. And this looks a lot better. So again, we use that index parameter to name our cats. And now that we have this, we can use functions. So instead of finding the median on our own or finding the mode on our own, we can have Python and the Pandas library do it for us. So what we would do is we would list the name of our series, which is cats, and then we're going to do dot mean. And look at the syntax here. It's always a dot and then the function. So it's mean and then 2 parentheses. You can probably already tell in your teacher hat, the syntax is always going to be an issue with students. So we do have ways of error control and debugging and stuff that I'll show you in a little bit. But if you do this right, it just figures out the mean for you. Then we have one for the median, which is 11. And we have one for the mode. Now, if you look at the output, this one definitely showed up differently, right? And this is because we can have more than one mode. So when you use the mode function, it actually returns another series. So it has another list that shows all of the modes here. So it looks like our mode is 11 and 12. And this is basically to show students, this is another example, our data set is getting bigger, and it'll show them when your data gets super duper huge, you can't find the mode by yourself. You're going to need to have some sort of data science technique, some sort of programming code, find it for you. All right, so we're going to explore now. So if you're in your, if you're new to CodeHS, this is how you navigate. You can hit this continue button down there. It's going to bring you to a quiz. And I actually want to give you guys maybe 3-4 minutes and see if you can figure out the 3 questions to the quiz, and then we'll go over them. So I'm going to be quiet now. You should get to a screen that looks like this. Let me know if you do not. Oh, and don't look at my answer. See if you can get it out on your own. And then I'll just be quiet for 3 minutes and let you work on these. All right, I said 3 minutes, but we're gonna go with 2 minutes, just because we're gonna go over these anyway. But this is just basically as an example. The first one may have actually been the hardest because it deals with the syntax. And if this is new for you, something that you literally just learned. But we have these afterwards, kind of to enforce students, let them know what's the important, the most important things that you should get out of watching, the video or working through the slides. So, I mean, it's up to the teacher if you want to use this as an exit ticket or if you want to use this as a check for understanding, if you want to allow them to go back to the slides to make sure they get them all right. But what we have after this, we always kind of follow up the video with some questions, mainly to make sure that they got what they needed from it and didn't just skip over it. So the first answer was number 3. And then I did skip a little through. So just, because of time, I didn't go through every single slide in that slide deck. So it does go over which measure is best to use to avoid outliers. So sometimes the mean is not the best measure of central tendency if there's an outlier that throws it all off. So median would be the right answer to this one. And then you guys were pros with outliers. So we got 26 for the other one. All right, now we're going to get into some examples, which are the most fun part. So slides, just to help you out with some navigation. You want to click on, nope, that's the wrong one. You want to click on continue. Yeah, I changed this course to make it less confusing. So you want to click on continue and you should get to the series and indices. Let me show you that continue button. So down here, if you click on continue, it should pop you open to series and indices. And I want to just pause and double check to make sure that that actually is true for everyone, because I know like if you signed up for our beta course, it might throw things out of whack. So let me know in the chat if anyone's having some issues. If you can't find this, just go to your workbook, and we're on number 6 now, right? Yep, we're on number 6. So you can click on there, and that will bring you right to the assignment. All right, so this is an example. Those that used CodeHS know what this means. It means it's all fully coded out for you. Students don't have to touch a thing. All you have to do is click on run. And I'm gonna make my, here's another thing. The settings are over here if you want things to be bigger. So I'm gonna make this bigger. And what we can see here is we can see Pandas creating series. So there's a few things that we can ask students to do to kind of play around with this. I'm gonna ask you to do it as well. See if, and I won't do it for you yet, see if you can do it. See if you can change flower. So over here, flower. Let's see if we can change that to coffee. So find it in the code on the left. And when you think you got it, click run, and then you'll actually see if you're right or not. All right, so I'm going to do it as well. I'm going to put in coffee here, which anything with 4 cups of coffee, I am in, and hit run. And you can see it over here. And now let's say students, maybe put in coffee, but mistakenly took out the parentheses, the quotes. They're going to get an error message. And the cool thing about the error message is it does tell them at the very least what line it's on. It gives them some other information too, which they may or may not understand. But at the very least, it tells them that it's on line 4. So they know that they did something on line 4 that needs fixing. All right, perfect. And then there's a few other things you can do in here as well. I think in the workbook, I ask, a few more questions of ways to kind of explore this example. Are there any questions? Please let me know in the chat or, just talk on the mic until we go to the next one. Students will, this is an example, and then after this example will be an exercise that they will have to actually build a series. Not necessarily from scratch, but they will have to know the code to do it. So they can use this example kind of as, obviously an example, and pull over the pieces that they need to build their own. We're not going to get into that today just because I wasn't sure of the level of coding that everyone would have. So I didn't want to confuse people. So today we're just looking at the examples. All right, so now let's go to the next one. Click on next. And we're going to jump around a little bit just because I want to make sure that you see all the cool things that data science offers. So the next one should be measures of spread. If it is not, let us know in the chat and I'll help you get to the right spot. And now a lot of what you're seeing is code that is written in the editor, but I want to show you that you can actually create code, a different file, and import it. So like I showed you in the demo, we could create a file over here, name it data.csv, and we could house all of that data in a totally different file. And then it would still work when we click on run. And we teach the students how to do that. So there's a specific code that you need later on that we get to, so that we can get rid of all the data that's kind of clouding up our code here. All right, so let's click run. And this one's different because this one we're actually using functions. So I'm going to give you a task. Right now, this would be the next lesson. So this is measures of spread. It looks like right here we are using spread, or we're using a function to find the variance. A challenge for you is, let's change this variance and see if we can use it to find the mean. So we did learn that in our slides. See if you can figure it out. If not, I'll show you, obviously. And this is where differentiation comes in. So you can tell students to just change, one part of the code. You can tell students to maybe just add a whole thing to the code, or you can just give them a blank sheet and tell them to do something. So depending on the level of your students, there's a lot of differentiation that could happen. So let's just say we need some more scaffolding for these students. So we're going to have this here. We're going to delete VAR, and we're going to put in mean instead. Now, an issue a student might run into, they might delete the period by accident. They might delete one of the parentheses by accident. So you just got to be aware of those kind of issues. I'm going to actually change this to say mean as well. And this is just printing the word, just so it matches. And then when we hit run, we can see that the variance changes from 315 something. And now it's giving us the mean, which is not going to be an easy thing to try to do by hand. Students will definitely see that with all this data here. All right, last example. And this one's one of my favorites. This one lets us plot the data. So again, click on next. And we should get to this one right here, labeled plotting data. And this one you may notice is a different type. Let me just click this because I've had it open. There we go. It looks different. This is a different item type. So we are working to get it to be one type, but that's going to be in the future. But this is a plotting. Well, it's not a plotting only. You still have the console down here, but this is definitely the item type that students are going to use when they want the graph to be front and center. So hit run and see what happens. Might take a second, especially the first time because it's pulling in all the data. It goes much faster the second time. All right, we got a box plot. And a few things you can do to make the screen bigger. We can get rid of view. We can drag this over and it will refresh. Perfect. So we didn't obviously learn box plots. That's the next lesson. That's 1.6. But students do learn box plots. And there is a time and a place for box plots, and a time and a place to not use them. So let's see if we can change this graph. Let's say we don't want a box plot. Let's say we want a histogram instead. So take a look. This time we're actually using a different library. So we're using PLT. And if you look at the top, that's our matplotlib library. So right here is where we have the box plot function. So let's change it. Change this box plot. And actually, I don't want to give you the answers yet. Let's see if you can do it on yourself. I have it in here. Okay, we did that, did that.
Hey, Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to bother you. For some reason, it keeps kicking me back to changing indices 153. I don't know if it happens to anybody else or not. I don't know why. It happened twice.
Interesting. It could just be, I'm not quite sure. Have you tried the link in the workbook? Does that work?
I just click at the bottom of the 1.6 to take me back there. It's okay. Just go on. I'll follow. It's okay. Thanks.
Okay. We'll help you later on for sure. Sometimes the navigation is tough, especially because we can't see your screen and stuff. Yes, very good. We're going to delete the word box plot and we're going to put in hist, which is the histogram function. So let's see this live. Oh, and just to let you know, this does happen. It says graphics disconnected. Displaying the graphics just takes up a lot of memory. So if it's just hanging out there and students, didn't just hit the run button, it may disconnect just to, make sure that CodeHS is still running fast, quickly. So then you just hit that button again and it shows back up. All right, so we're gonna replace this with HIST. And we're gonna hit the run button. Yeah, Teresa, we've got all of them. So we've got scatter plots, we've got, I even teach them, pie graphs and then bar charts, and just everything is in like future lessons for sure. All right, so here's our histogram, and this will teach students, this would be like a discovery thing here, because this histogram doesn't look so wonderful because it's all smushed together, right? So what you can do, and you can either, try to do it on yours with me, or you could just watch what I do here. I'm gonna put it in a parameter, and this is taught in the lessons. So to put in a parameter, I gotta separate it with a comma, and this parameter is called edge color. Did I spell that right? Yes. So edge color equals, let's say we want it to be black. And when you click run again, now you have to click stop and then run. Much better. So this will give students, this is gonna, really excite the students who want to know what else they can change. So I have that in the lesson plan, which I'll show you, where we get the advanced students, something to explore. You can change, you can add titles to the graph. You can change the color of the bars, the width of the bars. There's so much that you can actually add on to this for those students who want to go further. I believe that's it for that. Let me stop here, see if there's any questions. And then I want to show you, that's basically the end of the lesson. I want to show you where I got all this from. All right, let's move on. All right, so there are a bunch of resources that are available with this course. There's lesson plans for everything. Did I open the lesson plan? Yes, I did. Here it is. I'm gonna try to make it bigger. And the lesson plans are invaluable to teachers. They're really, really good, especially if you have to like submit lesson plans, because then they're here already. You don't have to worry about building them. So we have the kind of the lesson plan necessities in the beginning. We've got a description, we've got an objective, we've got the activities listed and all the links. We also have solution references. So there's two things. There's solution references and problem guides. They're very similar. Solution references literally just give you the answers. Problem guides are more in depth. So problem guides, they tell you what the answer is, but then they also follow up with common issues that students might, run into. Like maybe they deleted the period or the parentheses, or maybe they forgot to put the, the words, the string in quotation marks. So all of that will be in the problem guides, which would be a super helpful thing if you're new at this, to just keep, at the ready when you're doing the lesson. Then we have vocabulary. We have some handouts for some of the lessons, like offline stuff. And then this is like the bulk. The next couple is the bulk of the lesson. This is where I think as a teacher, like I would literally live in this section of the planning notes, because it gives you planning notes and teaching and learning strategies. So the planning notes is going to give you heads up, like a heads up. The syntax used is difficult. So it's telling you to, encourage students to use the docs tab and make sure that they are using the syntax correctly. The lesson plans are available for the first couple lessons for everyone. They do get a little limited if you're on free. But at that point, hopefully you see, kind of the layout of things and you can kind of mimic it yourself. But it is definitely free for the first couple lessons. And then in here, you can actually see where I've got some of the stuff for this practice lesson I did. So explore the changing. We didn't do changing industries. We did series and indices. But it'll say like some of the things, like run the code and match the output. Notice how the value changes. Have students try to guess what NaN stands for. It'll give you some things to lead the students through that exploration. So it's not like load the example and play around. It gives them actual things to look into. And then as well, here's the prior knowledge. So like I said, this wasn't the first lesson. So students will learn variables, lists, and functions beforehand. They'll also learn Python libraries. And then the mean, median, and mode, that's going to be something that they should hopefully learn, in a previous course, but it's something that we list here, just in case. As a one-stop shop, we put the slides in here as well. And then we also have the discussion questions. So you can see these are the ones I used this morning or earlier. So find the median, find the mode. I changed it out a little bit, but the outlier. So this is where I got those bell ringers. And then we also follow up with an end of class discussion questions. So this could be your exit ticket or maybe your homework or something else that you might want to use it for. And then lastly, here are your modifications. So remember how I said, students might change the edge color and want to be really excited to what else they can change. So we've linked the documentation here for you. You can send students here. It'll give them everything they can change and have them explore different things. And then of course we have modifications for special education and then English language learners as well, which mostly deal with the syntax and just using more scaffolding and skeletons, like code skeletons. All right, let me stop right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some time to explore this course, and then we will give you a chance to kind of talk to each other and share ideas as well. So for right now, I'm going to give you a full 5 minutes. I want you to explore the rest of the data science course, and then later on we'll explore some of the AI course too, if that's what you're really interested in as well. So these three in your course, if you want to go back to the beginning of your course, let me show you just in case you get lost. If you want to go back to the beginning of your course, again, click My Sections and then click it right there. And it's going to bring you back to that like first landing page, which is my favorite page actually. So go there and then you'll be able to see the first 3 modules of data science. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to look through them, play around with a whole bunch of stuff, and then I'll put you in breakout rooms to kind of discuss what you saw. So be ready to share something, be ready to share an assignment or something that looked really cool. And then also, think of what you might want to add into it, or maybe something that you'd want to learn more about. All right, so I'm going to be quiet now for a good 5 minutes. I'll even set a timer so that I don't pop back early. And of course, let us know in the chat if you have any questions while I'm giving you this, this exploration time.
So Jennifer, as I'm looking at each lesson, is each lesson allocate, like, what is the time frame for each lesson? Or is there a time frame?
That's a really good question, especially if you've used CodeHS before, because typically CodeHS does 1 lesson per each class. But with data science and the AI course, since they're more project-based, each lesson, depending on the strength of your students, could take two classes. So it can be done in 1 class. I think our suggestion is to maybe take more than 1 class for each lesson.
So I noticed that for each lesson, I mean, most of the lesson has like a video in the beginning. So you're considering for soon as the student logs on, they could watch the video and finish the whole assignment. You're equating that to a 2 period, correct? Not including the homework.
Yes, yeah, I think that would be closer with especially these. It could even be more. I know with AI has a lot less lessons because they do take longer. But we made sure to kind of like, we tell you in the lesson plan as well, like in the planning notes, if we think it's going to take longer than one class period.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that was about 5 minutes. I do see some questions in here. There is a lesson on libraries. So I have tested a bunch of libraries. There was a question about the size of the library. We actually found that a lot of the libraries work. And if it was too big, like the Pandas library or the libraries used in AI, we actually had to imported it like on our end. So if there is a specific library that every data science teacher really wants to use, it would have to probably be, but it's huge, you know, if it's a huge library, it would probably have to be done on our end, but it is doable. And most of the ones, excuse me, most of the libraries, if they're smaller, do absolutely, you know, they work absolutely fine. Another one was about this file size for importing data sets. I'm trying to think of what my largest data set was. It was definitely over 2,000 lines and it worked fine. So I don't know the actual size limit, but I do know that I've absolutely used one with over thousands of entries. So there's that as well. All right, so I am gonna let you guys take a break, not quite yet, but soon, very soon, before we get into the AI course. But I wanna collect ideas before we get into the breakout rooms of how we all think as individuals. We're gonna do that with reactions. All right, so go to your reactions and think about the video. Give me a, you know, I wrote wave, but I think it's actually like hand clapping. But either one is fine. Give me a wave if you're gonna watch the video in class. A thumbs up if you think you might watch the video before the class, like Flip Learning, or teach with the slides. Give me a heart. Yeah, so weird. Mine is definitely a wave. And everyone else is giving me like hand clap. Maybe they changed it since I made this. They change things all the time. All right, cool. I saw a bunch of them. Don't know if I had a consensus. I saw a lot of hearts. I think teachers love teaching with the slides because then you get to put your own personality in it. You get to pause for questions. How about the quiz? Do you think you might use it individually after the video? Do you think you might use it at the end as an exit ticket or maybe as homework? Got exit ticket, got individually, heart, big mix too. This would be interesting when you guys are in breakout rooms too, because it looks like we've got a whole lot of people using it different ways. All right, how about the examples? So the examples where the code is fully, you know, built for them. All they have to do is hit the run and explore. Would you complete individually, complete as a class, or maybe complete in pairs or small groups? Cool. Thank you for the reactions too. Like it really helps that I know you're there. There's people, you know, paying attention and stuff. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. A lot of hearts on that one. Okay, the exercise where they have to do it, they have to complete something. So it's not done for them. These are tougher. You're thinking individually, give as homework, or complete in pairs, groups. Cool. And I think I have one last thing. Actually, we're going to skip that. All right, so this is what we're going to do now. I'm going to put you in, and this is in your workbook, this link. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. We're going to talk for a few minutes, and then we'll take the break, you know, while we're in breakout rooms. I'll let you know. We'll have a good 5-minute break. In your workbook, you'll see this here. So in your workbook, we are now almost done. We are down to number 10. No, we did that one, number 11. So for number 11, we're going to go to breakout rooms. You're going to click on this Padlet link, and you're going to just kind of discuss. This is what the Padlet link looks like. So we're just doing this first column. So take 5 minutes to look through the first data science module. We did that. Discuss with your group. How do you envision yourself using the course, supplemental, 1 month, 1 semester, and then just add in, you know, whatever you want here. Any questions before we send you off? It would be a good time to kind of bounce ideas off each other. All right, Julia, are we ready with breakouts?
We are ready. And just a reminder, you will get a pop-up and you'll have to click join to join into your breakout room.
One question, please.
Sure.
I came in a little late. I apologize for that. The workbook, where do we go to get that?
We could put the
Dave,
link back in the chat for you. Okay.
I sent you the link in the chat. I will drop it in again.
Okay, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right. So here we go. I'm going to open our breakout rooms.
Я сейчас буду в этом. Join.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Hopefully you were able to talk a bit about the data science course and take a break as well, or just keep talking, whatever you guys wanted to do. All right, so I wanted to go through and just see if there's any questions on the data science one. And then I definitely want to give you a chance to kind of look at AI if you want to do AI, which is, like I said, the more advanced level, so you guys can talk about that as well. All right, so let's see, the data science. One person is using it in K to 8. I think, that first module, I mean, some of the lessons might be a little tough, but with the scaffolding, I think it's really important, some of that first stuff. So I think you could use it with 8th graders. Any younger than that might be tough, but you could adjust what's in there. All right, so use it as an end of the Python unit in my intro class. Perfect. Or after the AP-CSP exam. Oh, that's a great idea as well, because you have all that time after they take the test, right? And then same thing. Okay, the big data unit in the AP-CSP, kind of extend that a little bit. Absolutely. And then it looks like we're still, choosing or adding some in there too. Research unit in your English class. Interesting. I like it. Like you could use this in a math course. You totally could, in English as well. For the English class, for data science, the data science for business has them write a lot, like a business proposal. So that could be really good in there. All right, so what I'm going to do now, just give you kind of, we're actually just going to send you back into the breakout rooms, but with a different lens, a different focus. I want you to go back to, the beginning part, and you're going to kind of look at these AI courses, units. So we've got AI, the what is AI, that you should be able to use at any time. The AI in gaming is definitely tougher. AI and chatbots is tough, but maybe not as much. It kind of depends. So as you're in there, we're going to use the same Padlet link, but we're looking at the second and of course the third column if you have anything else you want to share. But basically you want to discuss with your groups, would your students have enough prior knowledge? Could you use the intro module if they don't have enough prior knowledge? And just, kind of go along with that and, talk about the AI. So explore the course together. If you find something cool, share it with each other. And then also just kind of discuss if it's a level that your students are good for. Any questions before we send you on again? And then that's going to be it for the lesson part of today.
Yes, Jennifer, could you make a connection for me? Why is data science needed for AI?
Oh, it's not. It's just we're just suggesting that since they're both 1 semester courses and they're both in Python, if you wanted to put them together, you definitely could. They're not connected. So that's just our way of, if you needed a full course and you didn't want to stop at data science and then not know where to go, AI could be used after that as well. They do kind of, I do want to mention though, that they do a little bit lead into each other just because data ends with like linear regression, and that's kind of where AI picks up. So it definitely helps each other out, but it's not like one depends on the other. All right, we'll send you off.
All right. Awesome. And you're going to have about 8 minutes in your breakout rooms to both explore, talk with your group. We are going to be with a group of new teachers, so you can definitely learn something new here, and then put your thoughts into that Padlet. So we're going to come back together at the half-hour mark. All right, here we go. You can click the pop-up to join. All right, it looks like everyone is slowly coming back into our main room. Awesome. Hopefully you were able to have a good chat with your fellow teachers about these new courses and how you could see those being used in your classroom. And reminder that that workbook is going to be available to you. So if you are totally in beach mode right now, summer mode, and you're like, this is really cool, but I don't want to focus yet on thinking about the new school year, that will be available for you to revisit, and I'll send that link out again with the recording and the slide deck, which you'll receive later today. So for the last half hour of our session together, we're going to take a look at some tools and resources that are available on CodeHS. I know that we have a lot of teachers who have used CodeHS before, so I'm going to do kind of a high-level overview of a bunch of those tools that maybe some of them you know about and have used, and some hopefully will be new to you that you can test out. So in the slide deck that you're going to receive, you'll see a bunch of these tools and some information on how to use them. But instead of going through them on our slides, I am going to go through them on our site. So we're going to hop over to CodeHS, and you're going to see the screen that matches what you see when you first log into CodeHS. So you're going to see a list of your classes, your sections that you have, and a quick note, your sections and your courses are a little different. So you can have multiple sections of one course. So if you are teaching, say, an AP course, and then you also want to teach this data science course, you can have those two courses, and then you can assign your sections to that content. And you can have multiple sections for each course. So if you're going to have period 1 and period 2, and you want to put them in 2 different sections so that they are able to get that content at the time that they need, you can make multiple sections of each course that you have. So you may have a long list if you've been teaching with CodeHS for a while, or if you're brand new, this might be empty for you, or you might just have your demo section from today. So this is the main page that you're going to land on. And we are going to go into our, if you go into a section, we're going to look at those tools. So I have all my tabs linked up here so that we don't have to wait for things to load. But you would just click right in here. And once you do that, you will see a page that looks like this. And so for this section, you can totally just sit back and watch. If you want to try to play around and see where these tools are on your own, you can, but you won't have this same information that I do. We have some sample students here and sample data that you won't have in your course. So once you first create your section, you aren't going to have any students in there. And your students are going to use a URL and a code similar to how you joined our class for today, our demo section. So once students start joining, they will populate here, and you'll see a lot of different things that you have available for how you can alter their settings and interact with them. So there are 3 things on this main page that I want us to point out. The first is going to be this announcements button. So if you click on this button, it will bring you to a page that looks like this, where you are able to type in an announcement for that section to give those students some information that you want them to all have as soon as they log into CodeHS for your class. So they are going to come into CodeHS, and this announcement will pop up to them. This is a nice alternative to having to email your students and hoping that they see it. Or if you wanted to say something to them, it happens to me all the time in class. The bell rings and I'm like, oh my gosh, I meant to tell them this. You can type it in as an announcement and publish that to your section. So that's a nice way to communicate with the whole class. Another way to communicate with students is individually, and there are multiple ways to have conversations with students on CodeHS, but one of them, this is a great way to start a conversation with students when you want it to be separate from any part of the course. So if you just want to have a message with one individual student, maybe Amelia was absent and I want to send her a message that doesn't have anything to do with any part of the course, I can click on this conversation button, and you have that for all of the students. And once you click on that button, you'll be able to send a message directly to this student, regardless of where they are in that course. So this is another nice way for you to chat with a student that isn't linked to any of their assignments. And the last thing on this main screen that I want us to take a look at is this attendance. So, sorry, I do see the chat popping up a little bit. If you can put your questions into that parking lot, I can make sure that I don't miss any of them. I know Gary, it looks like he's trying to get some answers to you. Awesome. But that parking lot is a really good way to ask your questions so that we make sure that you can get answers to all of them. All right. Okay. So on the attendance button here, once you click on attendance, you're going to see a list of your students, and you're going to see the time that they first logged in, when they were on most recently, and how long they totally have spent on CodeHS, which is really helpful information. You can also see this attendance by week, and this is not something I had preloaded, so okay, awesome. So you'll see it's summer. None of our students are logging in for this week, but this is a nice way to check. And regardless of if you have students Monday through Friday, or if you have a block schedule where you only see them every other day, you can still say, okay, well, Monday we were in class. How many of my students actually logged on to CodeHS that day? So that's a nice way of just quickly checking the temperature of your classroom. All right, so those are the three tools I wanted to show on this main page. So now we're going to hop up to our toolbar at the top. We have a lot of different options here, but I'm just going to point out a few. So we're going to look at this course settings page, and there are a lot of different ways that you can set different items for your class, but we're going to hop into this due dates and access controls portion. So this gives you a lot of control over when students can access and view material. So here you'll see that I have unassigned these first two modules in my course. What this means is that I don't want these students to ever have to do these modules. So I don't want them to even show up for the students. When they log on to CodeHS and they open my section, I want this to be the first thing that they see, JavaScript and graphics. So I have unassigned these first two modules. Assigned means if it is assigned, it will show up in the student's course. If it's unassigned, it just won't even show up. They won't even ever know it was there. We then have an option to set a due date. So you can set a due date for the entire module here. You enter a date for JavaScript and graphics. That would be for the entire module. You can also expand and set a due date for just a specific lesson, or you can expand and set a due date for a specific activity. So you have a lot of control here over how you want students to complete work. You also have the last thing here is access controls. And so you'll see some are scheduled, some are mixed, some are available. So available means students are able to click in and access that material. But what if I say, actually, I want us to all do some pre-coding material on our first week of school. So I'm going to lock this module. That means that this whole module, because I locked it at this level, this entire module is going to show up with a padlock, and it's going to be deactivated for students. They are going to see that it's still there, but they won't be able to click in and complete the activities. So maybe after the first few days, I say, okay, now I'm ready for students to access their material. I will switch to available. And now students can access all of the activities in that module. I also could say that I want to schedule something. So maybe I want to schedule a lesson, a module, or even an activity. And one really nice scenario that I can see this being helpful for is a lot of times you have students who really like to work ahead, and in some scenarios that's fine, but they might ignore the content that you're giving them because they think they already want to keep working on their code, and then they miss the important information that you give them, and you have to go back and answer that same question over and over and over, right? So if you instead say, we are going to be working on this, but I want to schedule it for a certain time. So I want to work on this. You could lock it and then come in and say, okay, now I'm ready, make it available. Or you could say, I'm going to go through this material on Monday, and on Tuesday, I want it to open for you so that you can start working on that content. You can also close it at a certain time. If you say, everyone, I want to let you know this lesson has to be done by Wednesday, it's going to close out. You're not going to be able to access that material after Wednesday. So make sure that you have that done. You can schedule an end time as well. So lots of control here. Even past that, a really awesome differentiation tool here is to set these, make these settings for specific students. So say I have Noah and maybe he was absent, so I want to give him a few more days to work on something, or I want him to work on this programming with Carol unit because I think he needs a little bit more of a background refresh that other students might not need. I can have those settings set just for that student. There are also some additional settings that we can set per class or per student. So like allowing blocks or preventing copy and paste. We don't have blocks for this course, but if you are teaching another course with CodeHS, then you might be teaching a course that allows blocks, and that's a really good way to differentiate, as well as those copy and paste. All right, I'm not going to wait for it to load up. All right.
So Julia, could you?
Due date? Yep.
Julia, could you just clarify copying? What was that? Like I just lost that screen. Copying block or copy and paste?
So
okay.
Block
So
and copy paste.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep,
Could you tell me what is a block and copy? What's a block?
Sure. So these are pretty much for our beginner courses, like the beginning, when students are first learning JavaScript, they use Carol, which is this like gamified version of JavaScript. They also use Tracy, which is a more visual way to learn Python. And then in our web design, when students are first starting web design, they have the option to code using blocks. So like Scratch, if you used Scratch before, they're going to use blocks instead of typing in every single command. So those are some options that you can turn on and off as students are learning and getting more comfortable with coding. And then copy paste is an option that you have, and this is helpful in any course pretty much. A lot of times there are ways for teachers to see that students may be using someone else's code and copying that code into theirs, like sharing answers with each other. And I can show you some of those ways that you might know that that's happening. But then you have the option, if you know a student, took code from someone else, copy and pasted it in, you can turn this on for a student so they don't have the ability to copy and paste into the editor.
I see. So this copy and paste prevention only prevents from like using the keys to copy and paste, but it does not prevent them from actually typing in the code of somebody else's code, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right. They would have, that is a way around it. They would still have to, they could copy it as long as they are typing in each key. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
We do have a lot of information about cheating and how you can deal with cheating in your CodeHS classrooms. This is something that a lot of teachers ask us about, and we have a lot of resources. So if you ask that question into the question parking lot, I know that we have some links we can send you for more information on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, awesome. So we are going to move into our gradebook and our progress tracking. So if we want to just see where are our students, you have a lot of options for how you can view their progress. And the one that we're going to look at is just progress by assignment. So I think that is right here. Awesome. You're going to see this key and these colors in a lot of different places on CodeHS. The colors show you different stages of an assignment for a student. So if you have a student that has all gray, this means Olivia has not opened any of these assignments. This tells me that she, hasn't logged on, hasn't been working on the assignments. But compared to Amelia, she has been completing a lot of these assignments. You also have the option to review assignments and send them back so that students will work on them again. Those are some of those pink colors. But this is a really nice, quick way for you to see where are your students and who are the ones that you need to check in with. Then we can head over to the gradebook. So we can go to this gradebook tab and you'll see those same colors used here. Oh, darn, this was happening to me before. There's a lot of information here. Okay, so right now it might not load up the same way, even though it should because our progress was working. You would see as the students are completing these activities, they would have their colors would match their where the assignment is. If they didn't open the assignment, if they opened it but haven't submitted it yet, if they have completed it and finalized it, those colors will match here. And you'll see all of the different types of activities we have in our courses. And one thing I know that I can't really show you much about this grading right now, but you have the options to configure this gradebook however you want. So if you don't want videos to count in the gradebook, you can uncheck this so that they won't be included. You have a lot of different options here, so I encourage you to take a look there. All right, I'm gonna skip my review then because that's not gonna work for the gradebook. But let's take a look at those resources because we did see some awesome ones in this course that Jennifer showed us, those lesson plans, and we have handouts and your problem guides and things. So if you click on if you're on this main page where your students are listed, you can either click resources here. And if you click this button, you'll see a list that looks similar to this with your lesson plans, your handouts for the course. And whenever we have a handout, we always will have a teacher version as well that will help you know what those correct answers, what we're looking for there. You have the solution references right here, any problem guides that are related to exercises. So that's what you're gonna see if you click this blue button up here. If you click resources on the sidebar, because again, we have a lot of different ways that you can access tools in CodeHS. There's a toolbox up here, there's a bar here that will bring you to specific tools, and then there's options here as well. So if you click resources on the side, you may see it show up this way. And so I just want to make sure, depending on where you are, you may see it a different way. And I want to make sure you know how to find those resources either way. So here you'll see for whatever course you're linked to, you'll see your handouts available, your problem guides, your lesson plans, and then you can also easily get to the syllabus. And your first week resources is something that I think at this point, right now it's summer, we're all, once we get back into thinking back into school, we're thinking, what do we want to start with our students? And you might not want to hop right into code. You might want to lay some groundwork so that you have a nice connected classroom. So I encourage you to check out these first week resources once you get a chance. There's a lot of different options that both are code focused and not. And those solution references are also available no matter what. So the handouts and problem guides and lesson plans, you'll get all of those for the first 5 lessons, whether you are free or pro. But those solution references are all available to any teacher no matter what, because we know that you need to know what the answers should look like. All right, and the last thing that I wanted us to take a look at really quickly is our course catalog. So if you are on our main page and you click My Courses, you'll see a drop down. You'll have a lot of information here, but at the bottom, you'll be able to view the course catalog. So I know it sounds like a lot of you, some of you are totally new to CodeHS. Some of you have used CodeHS for other courses already and are now exploring this new one. But if you go over to the course catalog, you'll be able to see all of the courses that we have available. And these new courses for the summer will be added as we add them, as those are released. So you are going to be able to look for a course based on a specific language, middle versus high school. If you are someone who has state standards that you need to hit, you can look at specific state courses, search by just your state. So we have a lot of options here. You can click learn more to view a whole page with a lot of information. You can look at what units are included, the syllabus, and add it right to your list of courses. So we have a lot of options here, a lot of information. And that brings us perfectly back to our slide deck. So we have a bunch of other ways for you to engage with CodeHS. So the first one I want to show is the other free teacher workshops that we have this summer. So this was focused on that data science and AI courses, but we have so many more that are going to be coming down the pipeline. If you're interested in one of those other courses that you find in the course catalog, definitely take a look at this link, info/pd/free, and you'll be able to see what other courses we have available. You also can sign up, try to apply to be a CodeHS certified educator. It sounds like there are a lot of people who have been teaching with CodeHS for a while. That's a great program to get more information about. If you want, if you send a message into the parking lot or into the chat, we can get you some more information about that program. We also have a Facebook group. You can search for our CodeHS educators group, or you can we'll grab you the link for that as well. Let me check. So Dave, I think AI is going to be available for you. It should be by the end of July. Be on the lookout for that. CodeHS will release an email with letting you know that it's available for you to now add your students. So that's a great question. You all have access now to the units that are in that demo course. So you can start going through those first two modules of those courses and check out that content. But the full courses are going to be released later this summer.
That's what I'm trying to do, is plan for the semester. And so I really want to know what it exactly looks like, if I can have access to it. And so that the kids, I can expect them to have the same thing.
For sure. Yeah. So Jennifer, I don't know if you want to speak more to this, but I do know right now those first two modules are available for all of that content. And we do have a beta group as well. So if you want to write that into the parking lot, I'm not sure if it's too late to join that, but that might be a way for you to access some other materials as well. All right. So thank you, Gary. Sorry, I know lots of info, lots of links. So before we finish up, if you could take a few minutes to complete our survey today, let us know how you felt about our workshop. Any information about how we could improve was so helpful for us. We want to make sure that you are feeling like your time is spent wisely, because I know as well as anyone, summer for a teacher is like the holy grail. So we want to make sure you are getting all your questions answered. And we'll throw that link into the chat. And this is also available on your parking lot doc as well as your workbook. And the last thing, if you need to receive a certificate of completion for being here today, you can fill out this very quick Google form. It's just going to ask for your name and your email of where to send your certificate. So it's going to be codehs.com/data certificate. And that link is available in your workbook at the very end, where it says more resources as well. And those certificates will most likely be sent out today, if not tomorrow. So you will have that very quickly. All right. Do we have any last questions before we hop off today?
Just real quick, Julia, when you refer to the workbook, is that just the code HS to be able to get in and enroll in that?
The
workbook that you're talking
workbook
about?
is just that. So the workbook is just that document that we had sent to you for this session today,
Okay.
with all those links for today's activities. Yep. And you should be able to access that. Like, you don't have to log in or anything. That's just a Google Doc.
Great.
Thank you so much,
All
guys.
right. Thank you everyone for joining, and we hope to see you at a future PD soon. Bye,
Thank
have
you.
a great day.
You too.